and welcome to Quilt Moxie, the podcast, where Quilt Moxie meets Craftsy.com, an online community dedicated to providing the best education and resources for crafters. Join me, Ariana, your host, and come along on my video journey where I participate in the Craftsy online classes and community. Meet up with us online at quiltmoxie.com or at your favorite hangout, Craftsy, Ravelry, Facebook, Twitter. Check the credits at the end of the show for more. You can also subscribe to our mailing list to get your next and every episode with show notes delivered directly to your email as soon as the episode is available. It's as simple as dropping your email address and checking Receive Podcast by email. Welcome. This is episode 14. I'm your host, Ariana, and I'm going to call this the Podiversary episode. It's been a year. Only 14 episodes. Today, I'd like to invite you to join us on our first knit-along, the Easy Breezy Brioche knit-along, and I will be talking about Franklin Habit's Heirloom Lace Edgings. So let's get started. It's been a year. This podcast is really the result of my once-in-a-lifetime trip with my mom in 2011. She invited me to visit Berlin, her hometown in Germany. And while I was in Berlin with Aunt Waltraud showed me how to knit a pair of socks on DPNs. So I thought I was going to make one pair of socks perhaps in my entire life. But what happened was, as soon as I came back to Canada, I could not stop knitting. Who knew? I did learn how to knit in Germany in elementary school. We had lived there in the 70s, I believe. And way back then, it was part of the school curriculum to learn how to knit. I didn't knit really after that, but now with the Craftsy classes, I have reignited my knitting mojo, I guess. And what I did learn was that once you learn how to knit, even in prehistoric times like we did, it's like riding a bike. It's sort of a time release talent that gets reignited once you join Craftsy and do all the classes, and you recall and you remember how to knit, and you never lose that talent. So thanks to my mom, I'm knitting socks, and I'm knitting all sorts of fun stuff through the Craftsy classes. And just to give you an update, last week I went to visit my mom, and she had pulled out some of her old knitting, and she's going to finish one of her very cabley vests that she had started. Could have been the 70s, could have been the 80s, who knows. But she's coming along, and it's a lot of fun because now I have a knitting buddy. It's my mom. Yes, I've been still knitting socks. I could not put them down, even though I've been going through all of these Craftsy classes and learning different techniques and projects. So behind the scenes, I'm still knitting socks. So I think what I will do with our podcast is in September, I will probably do a sock update. Last September, I had an episode on socks, and this September, I think I will as well. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. For the podcast, I know that Quilt Moxie, the Ravelry group on Ravelry, has been growing. It's not a very chatty, popular group, I guess you would call it, because I'm learning my way around Ravelry, and I'm very delighted. I think the reason I'm bringing this up is because I had some feedback that some of the participants in our group were kind of surprised that we're such a tiny group. But you know, really, I'm delighted with the group that we have. when I looked at the group, and I think you can do this as well, if you look at the members of our Quilt Moxie, the Ravelry group, what strikes me is how diverse and international we are. So I was expecting to attract perhaps Canadian, United States, because this is where I live. But no, we have far-reaching knitters out there that are following our Quilt Moxie, the podcast, meets Craftsy. And I suspect it might be, maybe they are brand new, just like I am to knitting. Perhaps they're newbie knitters, I don't know. And it doesn't matter. I'm very delighted that we have such a far-reaching group. As a result, I would like to offer prizes and contests for this upcoming year. And I'm trying to sort of customize the prizes. The prizes I've come up with so far are the free Craftsy classes that I've been offered by Craftsy that you could win. So please do subscribe, become a member. Once we have 100 members, we will be giving a free Craftsy class to whoever that may be. And I think it doesn't matter where you live. If you're seeing this podcast, you should be able to sign up for a Craftsy class and have access to it right away. We have already given one free Craftsy class away, which I'm delighted to announce. And that one we did with a free Craftsy class on our website. So Bonnie F, and I know who Bonnie F is, she won the free Craftsy class. So you're not limited in selecting a knitting class, for example. I believe she selected a quilting class, which is fine. There are a lot of Craftsy classes. You can go into photography, you can go into art, cooking, you name it. If you can make it, Craftsy has made a class to help you take it to an artisan level. So that's what I've been thinking of, trying to get electronic gifts such as ebooks or patterns for, or give you at least a choice to have that. The other gifts that I've come up with are I made a knitting bag, and you can see it right behind me, and that is for our Easy Breezy Brioche knit along. One of the first prizes that I've come up with. So why don't I just show it to you and see if it meets with your needs. Let me get it over here, actually. So this is the first sort of knitting bag that I've come up with. I just whipped it up, and the fabric that I got was from my friend Hélène. She is moving, and of course she has provided me some of her vintage fabrics. This is a heavy cotton. I would say it's a decorator cotton that I used to do the bag. And what I did was a drawstring closure, so you can fold it over. It's fully lined. This is for, I thought I'd make a knitting bag that would suit what I'm doing currently. And what I'm doing right now is I am following a knit along on Ravelry, and it's for socks. So as you know, socks, I can't stop knitting socks. I'll show you the book. Where did I put it? I'd showed you this book before, as soon as I had bought it. The Op Art Socks book by Stephanie van der Linden. I didn't think I was going to join a knit along, but this is my first official knit along. And the sock that we're on right now is called Victor. I had so much fun doing the knit along and following along with all the other people knitting socks from this really amazing sock book that is really how I decided that we have to do the Easy Breezy Brioche knit along for the summer. Super easy, really, really relaxed. So I'm going to show you now back to our knitting bag. This knitting bag I designed for when you're knitting 2 socks at the same time. As you know, if you saw my socks episode, I do 2 socks at the same time. So I'm going to see if I can hold this up to the camera so you can see inside of it. Let me see here. What you're going to see are 2 compartments. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, 2 compartments. Well, actually, it's 3. So you have your wool for one pair of socks on one side. Let me just pull it out. Your wool for the other pair of socks. Yes, you can see that it's 2 balls of wool per sock. And then I use the middle compartment for the 2 socks at the same time. So this is where I'm at with the 2 socks at the same time Victor knit along, which fits really nicely into this bag. So I've taken out everything. This is also, I noticed that the bag ended up large enough. I suspect you would be able to do 2 sleeves at the same time. So here I've opened it up a bit more. You can see that I've got a padded middle compartment and I've put it on a diagonal so that you can have a wide area for each one of the balls of your sock. And I made it large enough so that you can carry your iPad. So let me just put in my iPad here. So I've got my iPad in here. Maybe that'll help you see how this works on the inside. So there you go. I've got it fully padded on the bottom around the iPad, and let's load it up with all our knitting. And let's see. Sorry about the noise. Okay, maybe this will give you a better view. Here we go. Take a look. So you can see the diagonal design sort of gives you more room for your knitting balls. Anyway, that's what I thought. And so then you're going to say, well, is that all? No, that's not all. Then I decided, oh, if you're bringing your iPad, you're going to need an area to store your charger. So you see here, we can open this pocket. It's fully lined. And you can store your cable in there and your notions. And you see the big ring as well. So you can put your stitch markers for easy access. And it's got a cute little handle. So yeah, that I think is our first prize for our Easy Breezy Brioche knit along. And for the knit along, the way it's set up, it's going to run throughout the summer. We're doing June, July, August. And the way the Craftsy classes work is that there are generally 3 projects per class. And in this case, we're doing Explorations in Brioche Knitting by Nancy Marchand, and there are 3 projects. And we're doing Brioche Knitting Made Easy by Tarasovich. Sorry about that. I cannot pronounce the name. Sorry about that. Tarasovich? Yes, I think that's it. Okay. So those are the 2 classes on Craftsy where we're going to be doing our knit along. And the first project, so you can choose either class. So you sign up for either class, or you can do both and have 2 entries. And the first project will be the first 2 lessons of each class. And the first 2 lessons, I just took a quick peek at it. They're both together about 40 minutes. So let me get my iPad back out here. I wanted to show you, Craftsy now has offline viewing, which means for people like me, where I have bandwidth and internet limitations to how much internet I can have, what you can do now is use your iPad and you can download your lessons on your iPad and you can view them as many times as you want without using internet. So for example, I'm just going to quickly show you, sorry about the reflections you're going to see when you see my iPad here. I'm going to play. Here's Heirloom knitting, for example. I'm not sure if you're going to see this with all the reflections.
Hi, I'm Franklin Habit. Welcome back to Heirloom Lace Edgings.
So there you go. This is without the internet, and you can have, I've downloaded both the brioche classes and the Heirloom lace edgings, and that is how I did the classes. I did it totally offline using no bandwidth, which is great. So you could go, let's say, to the office or somewhere where they have an internet cafe and perhaps download all your classes and watch them at your own time at home, even if you do not have internet. So I'm hoping that you are going to consider joining us for our brioche knit along. You could be a brioche expert. It doesn't matter. If you have the class and you want to join us and maybe win my knitting bag, just join. Come to Quilt Moxie, the podcast Ravelry group, and sign up. So what I've learned from the knit along, from the socks, I'm using their sort of structure. The way it works is for the June knit along project, it lasts 2 months. So you have 2 months to complete the 40 minutes that are on Craftsy. And each class has a project. So in Nancy Marchand's class, you're going to be doing sort of brioche training swatches. That would be the project. And in the other class, you're going to be doing a brioche hat. I believe that's the first project. So you can pick either one of the two classes or both. Do both. It's up to you. We'll be casting on June 1st. And with the other knit along, what we were doing, or what I really enjoyed, was for cast on, you would cast on and show part of your knitting with a picture in the group, and that would be your cast on. You have 2 months to complete, and at the end of July, we'll be drawing for the knitting bag and whatever other prizes I can come up with. Actually, Craftsy has given me 2 50% off vouchers. So that means that you check in our show notes for this episode and you will have the link that should give you 50% off either the Brioche Made Easy or Explorations in Brioche Knitting. So there's one for each. And yeah, so if you haven't signed up for the class and you'd like it 50% off, click on the link. Also, if you just want to join and you have not signed up for the classes, I'd like to encourage you to either use one of the links that is in my show notes, because they are affiliate links, which means that you will sign up. It's at no cost to you, but as a result of signing up, our podcast will get some monies kicked back from Craftsy as a thank you. There are several other podcasters out there that are that have affiliate links for Craftsy as well. So I'd like to encourage you to either sign up through them or through the links in our show notes, so that it's a win-win for everybody. And it'll just keep our podcast on the air and running. Okay. What else did I want to say? Hmm. I think that would be about it. Let's see. So the summer knit along is going to be 2 months for each project per class, and you sign up for either one of the classes or both, depending on what you're inclined to do. I did notice that the Brioche Knitting Made Easy class was more for a continental knitter, whereas the explorations in brioche knitting, Nancy was showing it in English style knitting. So if that is important to you, that might be a consideration. And maybe, well, check out both classes, see which one appeals to you. I have both classes and I'm hoping to be able to complete both. And I'm looking forward to casting on June 1st. So come and join us and tell your friends so that we have many participants for brioche knitting. So yeah, join us. So now let's get into heirloom lace edgings with Franklin Habit. I have a couple of swatches. Well, should I call them swatches? Franklin Habit has designed his class more, the projects that he gives you to do are basically swatches. So it's sort of a training in how to do lace edgings. I did get a lot out of the class in the sense that he talks about your selvage edge. And I never really thought a lot about selvage edges, but he did point out the importance of them. And as a result of selvage edges, I am now using more and more of them, including in my sock knitting. So it makes me think back when I learned how to knit in Germany in elementary school. They had showed us how to, so you're doing your garter stitch, and when you get to the last stitch before turning your work, you bring the yarn forward and you just slip the last stitch purlwise, and then you turn and you do the next row. Now this was basic, I guess grade 1 or whatever it was, knitting. I do remember learning that, and I don't know if that qualifies as a lace selvage or edging technique, but I think I might try it out maybe sometime in the summer just to see what it actually does, because I don't think I've used it since I've started my Craftsy classes or my Craftsy journey. Well, so there. So let me show you what Franklin Habit's projects were all about. He has you, and I'm going to hold this up just so that you can see it, hopefully. Okay, so there it is. Okay, so what he has is he has you knit here a little garter swatch, and then he shows you how to add your edgings. So he provides you with the lace edgings. These are the different edgings that he offers you. Actually, he's given also in his list of resources a whole bunch of other ones in addition to these. So then he shows you how to do the whip stitch attachment. And what I did was I used red to show how these edgings were attached to the middle piece. So here's my whip stitch. And then he shows you the mattress stitch. And then he also gives you the option of knitting on the edging. And over here is the herringbone stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the other side. It gave me an opportunity to practice burying my threads. So that was a lot of fun. Okay, so let's turn it around so you can see the other side of it. So this is the other side of the mattress stitch, the other side of the herringbone stitch, the other side of the whip stitch, and the other side of the knitted on edging. So you might have noticed that there are sort of scars of red going through parts of the lace edging, and Franklin suggests that you cast on provisionally, and this is what I did here with the red, just to show where I was doing provisional cast on. And you start this half this way, and I went this half this way. And what that does, actually, he didn't actually show a clear example, but I suspect that's what he wanted to do. What this does, and we do this in quilting, is to ensure that your motif is centered symmetrically. So if you start in the middle and you go to the edge on both sides, in theory, it should be symmetrical. And then he gives you suggestions on how to turn a corner, which we've done here. This corner is better than this corner because I decided to do this half with a larger needle versus this half, which is the needle that makes the edging look a bit better, in my opinion. So it was a lot of fun to sort of play around with lace edgings. Now this brings me back to Gwen Bortner. Gwen Bortner was the first class, her interlock class was the first class where I had heard about knitting backwards. And I really think that lace edgings is where knitting backwards is super practical. I would encourage you to, when you take up lace edgings, learn how to knit backwards. I did some of these lace edgings by turning the work because they're all garter stitch, so they're reversible. But in the end, I had to do backwards knitting, or knitting back and forth, knitting without turning your work, because there's so much turning going on. You're only doing, let's say, 5 stitches across, and then you're turning 5 stitches across, you're doing turning, 6 stitches across, turning. So when you're knitting backwards, I find that you save a lot of time, and it's easier to follow your lace edging if you don't have to turn your work. So that would be my suggestion for this class, to include that in your repertoire. When in the fall, I'm planning to go through one of the other classes by Patty Lyons, and I believe she has a whole array of different ways of knitting, including knitting backwards. So if you have that in your Craftsy class list, you might want to look at Patty Lyons' class or Gwen Bortner's class before you try your hand at lace edgings. At least have it available in case you want to try it. So I enjoyed the class. I think this is a great class for summer. So I'm looking for classes for summer, for Craftsy summer classes. If I flash back to before I was a full-time quilter, let's say, I didn't think people would quilt during the summertime. Well, our quilter gang, I remember it was maybe 2007, one of our quilter ladies had organized a sew and swim get together. Sew and swim. When I first got the invite, I didn't actually clue in that sew meant with a sewing machine. I could not visualize that. And in fact, the sew and swim was 4 of us ladies in bathing suits / bikinis with sewing machines poolside. Yes, we went into the pool, came out, and sewed a bit, and went back into the pool. So for me, it was a complete revelation that there are quilt activities happening poolside. So having said that, I was looking for some of the Craftsy classes to see what I would do during the summer. And for me, my summer speed is going to be the Breezy Brioche KAL. And I'm not sure if there's going to be another Craftsy class. I did like the lace edgings, and I think that would be my kind of summer class. That's something I could do, you know, poolside. And the other thing that I didn't mind doing, because now it's getting really hot, is Franklin Habits has a stupid little snowflake. Now, here's the stupid little snowflake where he teaches you how to do the continuous edging. And I thought it was wrong.
So just as I got to our stupid little snowflake, something happened and technical difficulties. So here we go, take two. Here is that stupid little snowflake. And what we learned by doing this snowflake was the continuous lace edging technique. As I was doing this snowflake, I got a little bit confused because you might have noticed 8 points. So living with snow here in Canada, I thought all snowflakes had 6 points and I thought I was doing it wrong. And then I remembered it's a stupid little snowflake. So if you're doing this snowflake, 8 points, that's how many points this snowflake has. Okay, the other thing that I got out of Franklin's class was I have all these UFOs that I have not created myself, but from my mom, and now from some of my friends that are finding them and they've moved on to other crafts and they're no longer knitting or crocheting, but they have unfinished objects, UFOs. One of those unfinished objects comes from my friend Hélène, who handed me a box and some fabrics, and actually Hélène's fabrics are showcased in the knitting bag. And within the box of her knitting wool were a lot of unfinished objects, actually the first of which that I pulled out was a little cardigan. How about that? It's a baby cardigan. And what she had done was she had done all the pieces, but none of them were seamed up. And so doing Franklin Habits class, I practiced my mattress stitch, grafting stitch, all sorts of assembly stitches. And I assembled her pieces and added a button band from all the different techniques I've learned over this last year on how to put on a button band and how to space a button band and how to create buttonholes and sew on buttons, etc. So it was a lot of good practice assembling some of these UFOs. So maybe when you take Franklin's class, you might want to pull out a couple of your own UFOs and see what you have, that you can practice your mattress stitch and your whip stitch, herringbone stitch. Who knows, maybe you'll add some knitted on edgings or your own edgings and end up with a cute little cardie. So yeah. And that is my experience with Franklin Habits Heirloom Lace Edgings.
So that's all I have for you today. I'd like to thank you for joining us and invite you to our second year of the podcast. Join us at Quilt Moxie the Ravelry group and join the Easy Breezy Brioche Knit Along. Take care. Bye for now. À la prochaine.